Recovery from the pandemic is also high on the agenda at a G7 gathering in London. The UK is hosting the foreign ministers of the Group of 7 nations this week. It is the organization's first in-person meeting in 2 years. Apart from the pandemic, Downing Street bills the talks as a platform to address the challenges of Russia and China. Well, CGTN's Naweed Jabarkil joins me from London. Naweed, UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met a short while ago. What transpired? Well, we seem to have issues with Naweed's audio. We will try to get back to him as soon as we can. For now, though, let's go to Paolo Von Schirach. He joins me for an interview. He's the president of the Global Policy Institute, an independent research center focusing on global affairs and economics. Welcome to the program, Paolo.
Thank you.
So Britain is hosting the foreign ministers of the Group of 7 rich nations. It's billed the meeting as a chance for the West to take the driver's seat again in global governance. How do the other nations view this?
Well, I don't know. It depends on how the G7 present themselves. If I may quote directly from what Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said, and I quote, "What matters to us most is that we, the G7 countries, broaden the international caucus of like-minded countries that stand up for open societies, human rights, and democracy that stand for open trade." So it seems to me that all countries that would seem to welcome these kind of programmatic areas, open societies, human rights and democracy, and open trade, should look at the activities of the G7 favorably.
And because, there are some who argue that the G7 is a relic of the past. I mean, is the group still relevant in today's global economy?
Well, it represents about 50% of the global economy. You tell me if that's relevant or not.
I see. Because if we rewind to the last meeting of 2019, what did the G7 achieve there? I mean, the members themselves are divided on several issues as well, including whether Russia should be readmitted.
Well, Russia was never admitted. Russia was an observer, was invited to participate. And of course, since Russia misbehaved, breaking international law in a major way, it was disinvited. I don't think that there's a great, disagreement among the G7 on that.
Joe Biden will make his first trip abroad for the G7 Leaders Summit next month. He's got quite a bit of fence mending in the cards after the previous administration's friction. How easy will it be for it to reset relations, would you say?
That depends on the diplomatic skills of Mr. Biden, the foreign minister, or rather, I should say, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and all the other upper echelons of American diplomacy to convince the European allies in particular that America is a reliable ally. Unfortunately, under President Trump, there was a lot of turbulence. Some of it was substantive. Some of it was about the mannerism of the president, who seemed to relish offending everybody and saying, very uncharitable and undiplomatic things that were proclaimed publicly. That created a bad atmosphere with the Europeans, but also with Asian countries. So will the Biden administration be able to follow through on its pledges to say, well, America is back, we're here to lead, we're here to work with our allies, both in Europe and in the Pacific? Well, that's what they say. Of course, we will have to see if they will be capable of accomplishing this. And certainly there are differences of opinion on many different aspects. The Europeans may look at, for instance, just to name one, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany and Europe, differently from the way Washington views it. And in terms of relations with both Russia and China, there will be different opinions, I imagine, between how Washington views this and how Tokyo or Seoul in South Korea may view it.
You bring up South Korea. I mean, in fact, the G7 is inviting some of these foreign ministers from these other countries to come in. Why do that?
Well, because of course you want to show, that there is interest in and welcoming the views of other important countries that are, in a broad sense, allied, not really allied in a formal sense, but they're close to the West in terms of values, in terms of their economies and what have you, to listen to their perspectives, even though they're not technically members of the G7. That's I guess it's on the part of the hosts, in this case the British government. It's a nice a gesture of openness and welcoming other countries so that they can listen and they can participate in the discussions, and that the G7 members can listen to their perspectives.
All right, Paolo Von Schirach, always good to speak with you. Thank you.